And then most of the people we work with are actually there to change the world for better in some form or the other. And so we're helping you achieve that true greatness by focusing on relationships. That's the interesting thing that basically I think makes us very special. And so the question you probably have is like, why? Why relationships? And the answer is that I don't think you know a single person who's reached the top without without help from others. It's a state that doesn't exist. And do you guys actually agree with that? Right? Like you don't know a single person who's reached the fullest potential that they could get without help from others, right? So everybody I talk to agrees with me, but if I were to ask them, are you doing enough to take care of the relationships you have around you, especially those that can help you get to where you want to go? Almost everybody looks at me a little sheepish and guilty and says no, right? So we're continually good at actually neglecting relationships constantly. And so we have to ask ourselves, why is that? And this is basically where it gets very fast, very pragmatic. The reason why that is because relationships are important. There's no question about it, but the things we have to do to take care of them are never urgent, right? They're things you can do tomorrow or you can do next week. And we are living in a increasingly urgency-driven environment. And if we like listen to what people wanted to get out of this, you know, quite a few of you guys said like, hey, how do I like focus my time more, become more intentful with how I allocate my time? How do I, you know, Wes said it, how do I, you know, spend enough time managing relationships and leading people? And so, so basically the problem is a very simple one we have to solve. We have to solve the urgency versus importance problem. Right, that's really it, and that basically is where our work becomes relatively pragmatic or tactical, and that is that there are basically only two solutions about how you can overcome this problem. You can, number one, start becoming more intentful in how you allocate your time, so that you start focusing your time on those things that move the needle most. So that's number one. Just use your time smarter. And then the second thing is that you can free up time, or that as a leader, you need to find ways to free up time, right? A lot of you guys are probably in stages of your company where you're still doing a lot of things where you think, hey, this isn't really moving the needle forward, but I still kind of have to do it. And so we focus a lot on how to free up 8 to 10 hours a week by changing the way you work with a chief of staff or an EA, right? And bringing you in this way leverage to your to your day-to-day work. So it's not the leverage of what basically a lot of people will tell you, hire a great VP of product, hire a great VP of E. I'm talking about the leverage that you still need when you are basically just the leader of your organization, just the CEO. Eventually you're just the CEO. And once you get into the office of the CEO and you have nothing else to do, basically a lot of people hit a ceiling and can't find leverage anymore, because you can't hire somebody else to be the CEO for you, unless you want to do something like you did, draw you and says, I'm done with this and I'm going to like move out and move into the owner box. But that's sort of like what we do focus on. And so basically, ultimately, and this is where I'm going to wrap it up, is we've been able to prove with a lot of folks that we work with, and I've worked with CEOs of companies like Reddit and Roblox, and partners at companies like Sequoia Capital, Andreessen Horowitz, Benchmark, to basically free up the time. And then basically the question is, what do you do with that freed up time? Well, I would say invest it into relationships. Use that time now to basically really become the leader that you want to be by investing it into those relationships that can have the biggest impact on you achieving the vision that you actually set out with your company, right? And there are basically two groups. One is those people that chose or will choose to follow you by joining your organization. Your job is to find the best and make them join you and then follow you, preferably through hell and back. And the second thing that a lot of founders, especially in the stage between seed and Series A, start neglecting is your network. Your network is exceptionally powerful in helping you get those types of opportunities that can represent a breakthrough for your organization. Yet a lot of founders and CEOs focus too much internally on product building and actually not utilize this huge network out there. So we focus on basically teaching you how to basically have utilize those relationships in such a way that you can scale in a better way. That was way longer than I thought, but I kind of got into it. I hope it was okay. And the reason I took this extra time is because I do want you to guys understand where my expertise lies. And so any questions that you have around, like, how do I use my time more intentfully? How do I become less reactive? How do I become more proactive? Focus on those things is where I have hopefully very, very useful answers. Then basically, how do I get leverage on my own time? What do? I can talk a lot about that. And then, of course, anything about how do I connect with people in a deeper way, in a more meaning way, preferably fast. Like, for example, Kate, you probably have a lot of people already following you in terms of employee size. How do I stay in touch with these people so that I feel like I'm still connected to the company as I grow? So any of those questions basically is where I think I would be hopefully really useful for you guys today.
That was so awesome. Thank you. And what I really want to do today is I want to help facilitate all of you asking questions to Patrick. But there's one thing that I'd like to just do first, which is I'd like to go a little bit deeper. I think part of founder culture is not staying at the high level, but actually going deep and figuring out, like the litmus test that I always use is, what am I going to do differently when I leave this meeting versus when I came in? So, what are the very, very specific